On guard! I tried to do a dramatic blast of smoke into my webcam so I would be unveiled through the mist as the stream began, and that just didn't happen. It didn't work, and I'm just disappointed. I don't know what I'm talking about. Hello, my name is Rob, and I'm from That Channel Performance Check, and I decided that I would like to go live today, to talk about a few things, actually. This is a riposte, so on guard. A riposte is a video that I like to make answering questions that are sent to me either on my YouTube account, Performance Check, or on the Performance Check Facebook group. And I got a message the other week, actually, that I said that I would reply to. So this is it. I will be talking about that shortly. It's quite an interesting question. It's regarding a wizard that can't cast spells and the decision to play such a character in a game. So it's a challenge, and I'm looking forward to discussing that and obviously getting your feedback too. One of the great things about these riposte streams is that I have you guys riposte me. So you just get like a wealth of information from the whole ordeal. Experience. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about the character, the wizard that can't cast spells, and that's a question from Bobby Ranger. We're also going to be talking about the Eternal Drow Empire, because, well, I'll get to them later. I'm not going to say anything about them right now, but suffice to say, I'm incredibly excited. And I'm also going to be talking about the Lorekeepers, Chapter 5, which is entitled Jaws of the Underdark. Seeing a pattern here. So yeah, it's really exciting times. A quick channel update. Like I said, the next thing that I've got coming up is the Lorekeepers, Chapter 5, Jaws of the Underdark, and that's on the 25th. It's going to be midnight GMT, which I think is 7 p.m. EDT. I think it is anyway. I'll have to check, but I will post details nearer the time. So if you want to watch that live, come on by. If not, catch it later. Yeah, and I've been doing some work towards it. So obviously, well, I like to say that I put work towards doing the Lorekeepers all the time, but like I approach this session very differently. Suffice to say that one of the main reasons we will be visiting the Underdark is because one of our central protagonists of this campaign hails or has lineage of the Underdark, as he is a drow. So I'm going to get on to talking about that later. But anyway, that's about it. Let's get on with the question. So this is a question from Bobby Ranger. I see I actually have a comment at the moment. Marquis Hartis. Hey man, how's it going? I'm really excited. Speaking of Lorekeepers' character, I'm really excited that Marquis is running something tomorrow. Al Kadim, I think it's called. Correct me. Just post what it is in the chat, Marquis, and I'll plug it for you, man. But that's going to have Lorekeepers and Marquis in it, so that's just worth watching alone. So. But yes, Marquis says, I want to be a part of all drow game exploration. Do you mean just every single game, or just the ones that I'm running? I'm not looking for, like, I'm not digging for compliments. I'm just, oh, I got it right. Okay, wicked. Al Kadim, perfect. So yeah, check that out tomorrow, and Marquis put a time in there. But anyway, I'm going to get to this question now because I'm bloody rambling. It's been a very long day, so my mind's all over the shop. So like I say, this is a question from Bobby Ranger, and he says, I am the guy who loves all of the magic characters. Wizards, bards, sorcerers, clerics, druids, Even rangers, paladins, and monks, they have ki, whatever. Anyway, I would love to try out a different kind of wizard. The wizard who can't cast spells. I want to be a guy who is very knowledgeable about magic, but can't cast a single spell. They've tried arcane magic, divine magic, and even magic devices. However, nothing happens. They get the incantations perfectly memorized, but they cannot cast a spell. The character is frustrated as a result. 55 years of studying magic and trying to cast spells. So many tomes read, so many attempts at casting. For a class, I'm actually thinking rogue or fighter. They are better talented elsewhere, but are so blinded by their obsession with spellcasting that they don't realise where they are actually gifted. Could this character be interesting? And that's from Bobby Ranger. So first of all, Bobby Ranger, thank you ever so much for whacking me a question. I really appreciate it. And for those of you who would like to have questions answered, fire this into the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, or send me a message on the Performance Check Facebook group, post on the wall there, and I'll get to it. But could that character be interesting? Well, Bobby, I think absolutely that is an interesting character. Could be about it. It is an interesting character, and let me tell you why. The most interesting point about that character that you mentioned right at the end of your question is that the character is obsessed. He is blinded with that wanting to achieve magical capability. And what I would like you to think about, and those in the chat to think about as well, is what is that making that character blind to? This man has spent, like you say, 50 years, or this woman has spent 50 years trying to divine a way to make magic happen. It just isn't working. What opportunities has he missed in life? Where has that made him end up, you know? Like, imagine a frustrated individual who tried to get into like all of the magic colleges, but never got in. So instead of like going out and making a living for himself, this guy's fallen onto hard times. He's desperate. And then all of a sudden, one day, someone approaches him and offers him a vast sum of money. A vast sum of money in return for the magical knowledge he possesses. Knowledge is power. That's how I would go about it anyway. Like, you say, like, yeah, he's a rogue and a fighter, but like, he's still kind of clued up about magic, so that does make him interesting. And it's a flaw. And all the greatest characters in literature and film have flaws. The most interesting characters are not perfect. I believe Rincewind in Discworld as well. Like, I think this might change later on. I've only read bits and pieces of Discworld. But I'm aware that there's at one stage in Rincewind's career where he can only cast one spell. I actually had a player in a game a really long time ago that decided they wanted to be a wizard that can only cast one spell. And it was like a persuasion spell. It was like 3.5, so it was a little different to 5th. I think it was something like dominate. He could like just control people with his mind. And like, so he just had like a one-off spell. And I think it's really interesting. I really like that idea. To those in the chat, what do you think of that? And we shall analyse that a bit more. But for now, I'm going to put on the old vision intensifiers because I can see full-on chat has erupted. So, Marquis says, yes, I want to be in every drow game you run, Rob. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Marquis says, tomorrow, 8 p.m. That's to everyone watching right now. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. on A Point of Inspiration on YouTube. Go check it out. Go and subscribe. We'll have a link posted here tomorrow too. So there'll be a link posted in the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group as well, which is great. Fantastic. Tyler Hurst says, yes, I will be in your drown game. Pick me. I haven't said there's a drow game, guys, but there is going to be, there is going to be a drow game coming up very, very soon. And you know what? I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well, because it's going to be very different to what I've run before. Marquis says, Rogue, I think, would be best. So he's talking class-wise to answer Bobby's question, first of all. Rogue, I think, would be best. A rogue thief with the sage background who knows so much and has resulted to stealing the most powerful or reputable artifacts from ancient libraries. Yeah, so he has gone from just trying to figure it out himself to trying to steal methods to use magic. He can't muster it on his own, so he's turned to crime. Like, I just really love the idea of this individual that has like a burning ambition, and it's because of that it drives him to actions that aren't always looked on kindly by other people and the law, perhaps, who knows. Paul, oh my goodness me, I'm not going to be able to say your name. That's a great name, though. Paul Quattro Kyochi. I'm really sorry. I murder everyone's names on the live streams. I do apologise. But Paul says sage or cloistered scholar. There you go. In agreement with Marquis there. Yeah, great. I mean, mechanically, I think you can do anything you want. Like, in terms of like what the book tells you, like in terms of the actual background, because it is bereft of magic, you could do this with pretty much any class. I think it would make more sense to go with those things, because then they have like the backup knowledge, and they have certain proficiencies which make it more believable that this person has this vast knowledge and has this interest and has directed his life in that area. But yeah, so I think that's spot on in terms of what you could take from the book. Tyler Hurst says, Rogue would be good, and you could play up his magical knowledge as he subverts traps and has profound depth of knowledge. Absolutely. So yeah, I think we're all on the same page here. Like, and I'm in love with this idea. I'm in love with this character already. Like, I just think that's a really, really cool concept. Maybe we'll try and think of another one in a bit. Marky says, this gives me ideas for the Tomb of the Mummy Lord game I'll be in. Yes, Jacob Norman is running a bunch of his homebrew module, Tomb of the Mummy Lord. And I think that might be one I'm in as well, if I'm correct, Marquise. I know the date hasn't been set yet, but I might be in that one. I don't want to say I am for definite. I'm pretty sure that's the one he's talking about anyway, but there we go. Yeah, but that's a great idea, yeah. BJ Hill says, oh, wow, missed the topic, caught the end. One spell, give me a Reader's Digest version. This isn't the end. I've actually not been going that long, man. So we're actually talking about a wizard or a wannabe magic... a character who wants to be like a magic caster, but is bereft of magical ability. He can't cast spells, but he has a massive amount of knowledge about magic. And we're talking about what kinds of things, what kinds of ways you could play that at the table and to make it interesting. We've gone through the whole thing of this man being flawed and resorting to stealing other people's magical artifacts and things and stealing magical knowledge to sate that hunger for magic. So yeah, that's what we're talking about at the moment, BJ. Marquis says, I could even see him as a warlock or mystic. For the first, he made so for the warlock, he made a pact with a great old ancient force, a great old one, and it grants him powers. Yeah, so maybe this is the beginning of his journey. He makes a mistake and he is dying to have gifts bestowed upon him. And yeah, absolutely. Warlocks are famous for making Faustian pacts with, with patrons that demand a service of them. So that in itself is a character arc. You drop that on a DM's table, they will eat that up and they will just fire it back at you. There's nothing cooler than having like an omnipotent force appearing every so often to guide the player in a certain way. Like, that's just great stuff, great storytelling. And it's exciting for the player too. Like, there's nothing more exciting than having like a powerful as a player, you feeling like a powerful individual in the world that you're playing in has deliberately sought you out. Like, obviously, a lot of people consider that unlucky, but like in terms of the storytelling, it's really shining a cool spotlight on the fact that this specially crafted entity is like by the DM is singling them out because, you know, like it's just a cool thing to do. So yeah, Paul once again says, character idea. Rogue, close to the scholar, accumulates knowledge of magic. Someone offers them a way to cast in exchange for accumulative knowledge, multi-class into Warlock. There we go. All on the bloody same page here. Marquise continues and says for the Mystic, which is a very interesting class that I was reading up a bit on today, actually, is a psionic class. It's been released in Unearthed Arcana. You go check it out on Wizards of the Coast website, download it for free, along with all the other Unearthed Arcana stuff. And yeah, so for a Mystic, I could see him finally giving up on magic and focusing inward, realizing that his problems were internal, not external, and he gains psionic powers from there. That's a very good idea. He realizes that all this time he's been running up against this brick wall because it is not his fate, it is not his destiny, it is not within him to be able to cast magic, but he can focus all of that knowledge, all of that mental power that he's developed from years and years and years of study, and he realizes that his brain has basically, he is, unwittingly trained his brain to a level where he can focus psionic powers instead of magical powers, which is, I really like that, actually. I want to play this character now. This sounds wicked. Yeah, just have a sip tea. Cheers. Goodness. Marky says, yeah, Rob, we're in the same group. Yeah, I know. I was just checking, that's all. Like, I know Jacob's been running it like a bunch. So, like, there could be like 10 more of those games that will be happening, and I wouldn't know about it. So yeah, BJ Hall says, oh wow, a bard would be cool. He could double down on his knowledge arcana with the personal quest to the god of magic. Or the warlock idea is good too, but if it's a wizard, it could be a knowledge it could be a knowledge cleric in search of the font of magic or a way to create an object to help save the world. Yeah, man. Like, all of those ideas really are pointing not only to like character development, but it's also pointing to clear ways that the DM can take that and use that for missions. Like, that's the sign of a great DM, is to see like a problem that the character is facing and then be able to put something that it can then be dealt with in game, in encounters, in social interactions, blah blah blah. That is the best way to fully immerse players into the world and into their own characters as well. Marquise himself says, Marquise, master of character ideas. I would just like to point out for everyone watching that Marquise said that. Marquise said he is the master of character ideas. That's all I'm saying. I'm just playing. I'm just messing with him, man. He did actually say that. I'm not messing around when I say that. But yeah. Alessandro says, hello, Rob. Hey, man. How's it going? So, Bobby, I hope that helps. Like, I, for one, think it's a really good idea. Like, you seem to have already developed your own idea about that as well. But yeah, like, take on board the stuff that both myself and the members of this wonderful community have come up with as well, because, yeah, like, it's cool enough for you to like get really excited about, but it's also open-ended enough for you to obviously then add your own little nuance, apply details from your setting or your DM setting, give it to the DM. They'll be able to run with a whole bunch of missions that will allow you to explore that. So yeah, that was really fun. So like I said before, with Riposte, if you'd like to fire a question into the comments below or over to Performance Check on Facebook, yeah, we can have a chat about it here. yeah, so that's cool. Thank you very much, Bobby Ranger. That was awesome. So on to my next topic. I'm just going to have a bit of a puff. I do smoke rings sometimes, but I can't be bothered. I do a smoke ship, like in Lord of the Rings, like Gandalf, like Bilbo does the smoke ring, and then Gandalf does like the smoke ship that he blows through the smoke ring, and it's kind of like, you're just showing off, mate. All right, you don't have to show me up at my own birthday party, Come on. Marquis says no one dares dispute. So, the next topic is sort of linked, really. It's the Eternal Drow Empire and the Lorekeepers, Chapter 5. So yeah, like I say, 25th of this month, the Lorekeepers return. We left them on a significant cliffhanger. And assuming they survived the cliffhanger. I'm not going to say what it was. Assuming they survived the cliffhanger, because something dreadful might happen, and they might not actually get to the Underdark, which it's called Jaws of the Underdark, so it's kind of like me saying out and out, this one's going to be all about the Underdark, okay? In some regards, anyway. And it would be really funny, actually, if, like, in the session, I call it Jaws of the Underdark, and then in the session, they don't go to the Underdark, or nothing is mentioned about the Underdark. I'll just be like, yep, it's just called Jaws of the Underdark for no reason whatsoever. But anyway, I, for a long time, have known this has been kind of coming. And one of the reasons that is because I'm blessed to have a drow character in the party of the Lorekeepers. That is Azarax, which is the brilliant, the talented, the wonderful Lorekeepers character. And the other day, the weekend that's just been, I had the good pleasure to actually sit down. We organised this, me and Locris. We sat down on a hangout. And we sat for about 2.5 hours. And you'll understand the point that I'm making in a moment. We sat down for 2.5 hours to discuss Azarax's character. Like, we talked about him like a fair bit, but like it was now time for us to like really get down to brass tacks, as it were. And by the end of those 2.5 hours, not only did we have a better idea about who this dark elf is, but we also, Locris was able to help me in a way that I want to talk to you about now. By the end of this stream, I not only had thought of different ideas for the drow, I had thought of an entire drow civilization. Now, I'm not going to say that everything is from scratch. I'm the firm believer that, you can take the traditional kind of settings, the tropey kind of settings, twist it a little bit, and, just make it interesting. So the drow in my setting are going to be very familiar. However, there are going to be a number of fundamental differences in their society and in their culture. Now, I'm not going to talk about those because I like to reveal those in gameplay. That's kind of like one of the fun things for me in the running the Lorekeepers. It's called the Lorekeepers. Like, when I run a session, I want to be dishing out lore, but in a fun, accessible way that is relevant to the story that the players are playing. So that's the thing that I really get a kick out of as a DM, like being able to sort of give out this kind of story whilst it, also remains relevant. So if you want to know more about the drow in the Nine Kingdoms, drop them by to the Lorekeepers Chapter 5. But this is something that I've not done an awful lot of, and that is work with someone else with D&D. And creating stuff as a DM. I talked to my girlfriend about my content, but I've never organised time to sit down with someone else and actually go through it, and you will be absolutely amazed. Now, admittedly, I was talking with Lorekeepers, who is gifted in a number of different ways. Like, obviously, he's a very talented musician, he is an artist, and he also has some really amazing ideas, like absolutely amazing ideas. The guy is fantastic. So working with him was an absolute blast, and I was able to run things by him and able to refine things, and by actually having just a conversation with someone about it, it enables you to look at it at a different perspective. So a challenge that I give to you guys, and I don't necessarily mean it could be someone in the community, though I would say maybe challenge yourself to not be in this community. Go out and chat to someone about your setting, because I can absolutely guarantee you, if you speak to them for 2 hours, you will have a civilization on your hands. You will have a rounded civilization that is based on very logical pillars that are the foundation of the whole thing. And also, you'll think of loads of just cool stuff to add onto it as well, like down to the sort of things that they wear, even, like, and what they look like. That's what, like, things that we were talking about as well. So yeah, challenge yourselves. Just go chat to someone else about your setting, because I did that this weekend, and I didn't give Lorekeepers any spoilers or anything about what's going to happen in the session. I still always keep that close to my chest. But regarding the actual society and as his character came from there, I thought it would be fitting for me to talk to him about it. And it was spot on. 2.5 hours, bam, flew by. We were just like, Jesus, I'm thirsty. I need to go and get a drink. So I'm just going to have a quick, I've got a few more comments. Let's see. So Alessandra says, I needed so much more with that ending. Oh, do you mean the ending of chapter 4? Yeah, man, that was that was a bit of an ending, wasn't it? I was really proud of that one, because I'm very proud to say that I always, as a DM, let's face it, every now and then we do quite like it when we pull the wool over our players' eyes. Every now and then we play a little trick on them, and they have an expectation of something, and then you turn around and you give them something completely different. And that was how the last session ended. So that means that is going to have to be resolved at the very beginning, and I mean the very beginning of the next session, which is going to be, I'm really looking forward to that. And for those who watch the Lorekeepers, I think you know what I mean. So if you haven't caught up yet, jump on and watch, because I know it's just me saying it, but like, don't watch it for me, watch it for my magnificent players and their magnificent decisions. In fact, that weekend you're going to get a double dose of Barker as well, man. Like, you guys will get to see him in Windsor Celine running his final 3 or 4, I think it is, and then he'll be in the Lorekeepers as well. So that's good. Okay, Marquis says, will my plague bird doctors still be in the Drow civilization? Right, guys, do yourself a favour. If you like anything that Marquis has ever done, ever, then go and check out a game that's on my channel called Shadow and the Lockdown, in which Marquis plays a member of the Court of Whispers, and he is essentially known as a plague bird. And this was something that Marquis just came up on his own and just dropped at my feet. And he was just like, is this in the Nine Kingdoms? And I was like, I looked at it and saw that it was a really, really good idea. So I was like, yes, it is in the Nine Kingdoms. I will ruthlessly steal that idea. Marquis, I give you full credit for the idea of the plague birds, as long as you're happy with them being included in my session for the rest of time. They're really cool. They are a sinister. It seems like there's more than one, obviously, from what Marquis has been saying. A sinister kind of order of drow that are reminiscent of plague doctors within the Renaissance era. And you know what I'm talking about, those strange operatic masks with like the goggles and the long beaks. Plague doctors, you know what plague doctor is. I don't need to spell it out. And essentially the drow have these plague birds, and they have these raven-esque masks, and they operate it very, very shadowy, in a very shadowy way. You'll notice I'm kind of like skirting around the topic because, like, I for one only know bits about them because me and Marquis talked about this very briefly before a one-shot game. But in a roundabout way, Marquis, yes, absolutely, the Playbirds will be in the Drow civilization. I have already considered them, and you never know, they might have they might show up in the next, well, however long it takes for them to get, if they ever do go to the Underdark, or whatever way the Underdark is going to be included, should I say, rather than actually going. Caius, hey man, how's it going? Bloody legendary man, and a faithful ally and friend in a wicked game. Around here, I am the law. Law, Lore. Very good, man. VJ says the Underdark turns out to really be a cupboard that needs epic cleaning. Clean the drawers of the Underdark. You joke, VJ, but I have lived in places that could very well be considered the Underdark. There's a really cool name for, and it's now left my mind completely. It's like the Feyarazi or something, and it's from old school D&D, and that is that the Underdark has always been incredibly difficult to navigate. Obviously, underground labyrinthian tunnels that go on for miles and miles and miles, deep beneath the surface, part of what also makes it treacherous is obviously the monsters down there, the natural dangers like the abysses and caverns and underground rivers, but also this Feyarazi. I've got to look up the name now at some point, but essentially it is a byproduct of magic. It's essentially radiation from magic that is left in the Underdark, and it messes with transportation. It messes with all magic, and it's incredibly dangerous to go into. So I would like you to imagine that kind of aroma, but around a cupboard or a chest of drawers. No, but I just thought that was I was reading obviously about the Underdark quite a lot, and I am making sure that this is my own Underdark. But like I say, some of the traditions I feel should be acknowledged, even if you aren't going to change them. And I've been enjoying myself with putting my own spin on the Underdark. Marquis and the others were awesome in that game, says Alessandro. Yes, Shadow of the Lockdown. Yeah, they were. That was a very free form game. I really enjoyed it. Usually with Lorekeepers in particular, all my other one shots actually, I generally have like a sort of plan for like the kinds of things that I want to do. Nothing in cement, but just general ideas. Yeah. But with that one, I just had like 2 objectives, and it was to take out 2 people essentially in a maximum security jail, but in a fantasy setting. In my fantasy setting, and it was great. I could just say, "This is what you got to do," and you give it to the right people, and they just run with it, and it was so much fun. So yeah, Marky says I should do a write-up and send it to you. Dude, by all means. In fact, dude, we should. If you wanted to, we could like jump on a hangout sometime and talk about it, because I really love the idea, and if you are happy for them to be in the 9 Kingdoms, then I would be humbled to have them. So yeah, we'll talk. BJ says, haha, and Caius is faithful. We'll see if that continues when we start making shadow checks again. Caius, do yourselves another favour, okay? The other day I posted about this. I posted immediately afterwards. I was in a Middle-earth game. Well, I'm in a Middle-earth campaign. Caius is a part of that campaign. It's run by Lloyd, our boy Lloyd, over at YarlDM. You all know who he is. Well, if you don't, go check out YarlDM and bloody subscribe because it's worth it. He is running the most amazing Lord of the Rings campaign. It is basically allowing me to revisit a childhood dream, and that is to wander in Middle-earth and be a Tolkien hero. Or well, hero. Character. And it's great. But the great thing is that Caius's character Beregond and my character Faroth have had a few ups and downs in terms of how much they trust each other, because of the great system mechanic of the shadow check in Lord of the Rings, the shadow of the Sauron the Deceiver affecting all that oppose him. And it's great. But the latest session in particular, like, they've all been amazing, but the latest session just was like, oh my god, it's just insane. You need to go, and you need to go now. Well, not right now, stay on the stream, but go check it out because it's great stuff. Marquis says, I'll hit you up for a hangout. Cool, man. Yeah, absolutely. So, that's kind of all that I wanted to talk about. Like, I mean, I was going to talk a little bit about the drow, but then I thought maybe I shouldn't, because maybe I should save that for the game. But let me think of one thing that I can talk to you about. BJ Hall says, I think of the Underdark like I think of the Shadowfell, the same, but twisted, and just as hard to get out of. Yeah, to be honest with you, like, I have a much stronger... I think, personally, I have a much stronger mental relationship with the Underdark than I do with the Shadowfell, and I don't know whether I'm incorrect in saying this, but I think the Shadowfell is a relatively new thing. I think it used to go by another name, didn't it? I know it wasn't always called the Shadowfell anyway. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I've been in more games where I've been in the Underdark than I have been in the Shadowfell, put it that way. And I think the Underdark is the ultimate terror. Because the Shadowfell, it's all very good because you're in a different dimension where everything is wrong, everything is strange, everything is backwards, but it's also shadowy and, the Shadowfell. With the Underdark, there is a very real sense of fear, in my opinion, because everyone knows what it's like to be caught in a dark, confined place. It's every human being is familiar with that feeling of what it would be like, at least. And that's what I think is the strength of the Underdark. It is a location that is designed to put your players on the back foot. And because everything that's down there has the upper hand on basically any surface dweller, whether they be drow, or Quarus or whatever, or gibbering mouthers, or freaking chokers, or you know what I mean, like all of the classic Underdark creatures, it's great, and I do love it, and this is going to be I'm really looking forward to this. With this, I'm looking basically, because I'm trying to visit quite a lot of staple areas in D&D. I'm trying to make it like an event. This is like an Underdark event. This is going to be the story of the Underdark for my setting, the story of the Underdark. And I'm really excited about it. I've always loved drow anyway. I've got to admit, drow have always been my favorite. The dark elves, and my genesis, my creation of the dark elves is the exact almost the exact opposite of what I've seen in most people's games, and I'm really happy about them. Really happy about them. And it's only something simple that I've changed, but it's something radical as well. I can't wait. BJ Hall says it would be depressing to be around that many farts, lol. But seriously, it would be a psychological torture for someone from the up top. It is, yeah, absolutely. Like, there's all sorts that play havoc on you. And let's not forget, the Underdark is massive. You know, it is basically the size of the world, but subterranean. It's or at least an area, you know, like it spans that long, and it doesn't have to be underground everywhere in the world, but like it still covers like a significant portion of like land areas, especially. Yeah, it's really exciting. So yeah, I think if no one else has any questions or anything, then I'm gonna hit the road. I've been going for about 40 minutes. BJ Hall says, if you have anything else to add, whack it in, and I'll hit the road. BJ Hall says, I see one mind flayer. I would be if I see one mind flayer, I would be an instant slave even if I had a sword. But look to the trip into the Abyss module for inspiration. I haven't looked into the Abyss. That is actually one of the 5e books I don't own. And I don't know if I will, because I think a lot of people would be familiar with Into the Abyss, and while I'm not saying that I would copy it completely, I quite like that my stimuli for the drow has come from somewhere completely different, which is why I'm saying they're going to be slightly different than your standard drow, but also classic. It's really hard to say without giving away, so I don't want to say anything else about it, but there we go. All I will say is that the drow, while duplicitous and backstabbing and treacherous, have a higher calling in my setting, shall we say. And not the calling you might think it is, for those deep cuts D&D fans out there. So, first of all, to Bowie Ranger, thank you ever so much for your question. If you would like me to answer a question, whack it in the comments below. Visit me on Performance Check on Facebook. And for those in the comments live on Facebook, thank you ever so much for hanging out. It's been really cool. Nice. Just over 40 minutes. It was a good time. Really enjoyed that. Make sure that you come over and check out the Lorekeepers. If only to see the wonderful players and their wonderful, wonderful role-playing, because they blow me away each session. So the next one is on the 25th of this month. And yeah, it's going to be a time. It's going to be a show. If you like this video, give it a like. If you would like to see more like it, then give me a subscribe. Or not, we're all friends here. Or are we? Thanks for watching, and I hope that all of your performances are up to standard. Finish! I'm winding the mouse down!